Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to be diving in to the Amityville horror. Let's get right into it. On November 13th, 1974, in the small town of Amityville, New York, Ronald DeFeo burst into Harry's bar, screamed that his parents had been killed, shot dead. Public discovered the bodies of 6 members of the DeFeo family. Police discovered the bodies of 6 members of the DeFeo family. The father, mother, and 4 of the DeFeo children were found, face down, shot in the back of their heads. Ronald claimed he wasn't home during the murders. After police officers found a gun case for a .35 caliber Marlin rifle in Ronald's room, DeFeo confessed. After a lengthy trial, Donald DeFeo was found guilty of the heinous murders of his family. He was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences. But there has never been a solid explanation on how one person acting alone could take the lives of 6 family members in the dead of the night at 3:15 a.m. And no one heard the shots being fired. Fast forward a year to the Lutz family. On December 18, 1975, the Lutz family moved into the DeFeo home. Though it had only been 13 months since the DeFeo murders had occurred, George and Kathleen Lutz thought the Dutch colonial was a lovely home and a steal at $80,000, never expecting they'd have to leave it behind just only 28 days later. A Catholic priest arrived while the Lutz family was unpacking to bless the home. As the priest made his way upstairs to the second floor, entering the bedroom which had formerly belonged to Mark and John DeFeo, he began sprinkling holy water, at which point an unseen voice told the priest, "Get out," which he hastily did. The priest did not tell the Lutz family about the voice, but he did warn them, do not use the upstairs room as a bedroom and do not let anyone sleep in there. Although ominous, the Lutz family abided by the words of the priest and turned the room into a sewing room. For the very first night they moved in, the family claimed they felt strange sensations. Within days, the family's personality had drastically changed. Arguments ensued. George was plagued by a constant chill and spent most of all of his time feeding the fireplace. George also noticed a change in his grooming habits, and his and Kathy's health declined drastically. The Lutz's daughter began spending all of her time in her room playing with an imaginary friend she described as a red-eyed pig called Jody, who could transform not only the shape but the size at times, being larger than the house. Jody could also claim that she could not be seen by anyone unless she wanted them to. Mysterious foul odors would begin to emanate from different locations of the house. Black stains appeared on the toilets and ceramic fixtures. Kathy was touched by an unseen force, and a green gelatin substance would appear throughout the house. Hundreds of flies appeared in the sewing room, despite it being the dead of winter. George would wake up nightly at 3:15 a.m., which coincided with the time the police felt the DeFeos were murdered. George also awoke one night to witness his wife transform into a 90-year-old lady, and the next night she began levitating off the bed. The Lutz family tried on numerous occasions to contact the Catholic priest, only to find out the phones would cut out whenever they would try to call. After failing to get the priest to return, the family took matters into their own hands. Armed with a crucifix, they walked throughout the house, reciting the Lord's Prayer. A chorus of voices erupted in response, asking, "Will you stop?" The final night was reported to be the worst. Banging, rappings, as loud as a marching band's, emanated throughout the house. Furniture began being moved by its own accord, and the children being terrorized. After 28 days in the DeFeo's home, the family claimed that they could take no more. They grabbed only a few of their belongings and fled the house, taking shelter at Kathy Lutz's mother's home in a nearby Babylon. 20 days after the Lutzes fled, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in by Marvin Scott, a news reporter with Channel 5 New York, who had covered the Amityville story and worked on it prior investigation with the Warrens. A team of reporters and investigators and parapsychologists were assembled by Ed Warren and met at the home at 112 Ocean Avenue. The Lutz family refused to re-enter the home during the investigation. During the investigation, Ed was physically pushed to the floor while using some religious provocation in the basement. Lorraine was also overwhelmed by the same sense of a demonic presence and was being plagued by her psyche. Impressions of the DeFeo family's bodies laid along the floor covered in white sheets, and a sense of being physically pushed back. The research team also captured an image of a spirit that appeared as a little boy peering from the second floor. The land was also found to be used by John Ketchum. John Ketchum was a practicing black magician, and he had a cottage on the land prior to the construction of the Dutch colonial in 1924. John requested that his remains be buried on that property, and they remain there till this day. Shinnecock Indians also, at the time, had an enclosure on this land that was used to house the sick and the mad. Those in the enclosure were left to die. The Warrens believed that the suffering there had left with the property with the negative energy and the dark history, and that such a negative history was a magnet for demonic spirits and the preternatural. The Warrens believed that those energies directly impacted the lives of both Defoes and the Lutzes. The Warrens retrieved a handful of Lutz's earthly possessions and deed for the property. The Lutzes sold the rest of their belongings and relocated to California. The Ocean Avenue home that was once purchased for $80,000 in 1975 by the Lutz family sold for $950,000 in 2010 and is again on the market. There have been no further reports of activity from recent residents. Kathy Lutz had a quote, "Things of this nature happen quite frequently. And when they happen to families, they usually close the door and they don't talk about it. And unless these things are talked about, they'll never be understood." Thank you for watching this episode of Strange and Weird. Be sure to check out our previous episode where we dove into the Slender Man. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll stay up to date anytime we upload a video. And remember, stay strange and stay weird.